It's Patricia, Worby, Alchemy Therapies and my emotional audit here, and it's time for chapter 5 of the book review on Tyranny by Tim Snyder. And chapter 5 is called Remember Professional Ethics, and this is about the interaction between professionals and dictators, or people, ideologues, people who seek to kind of take over a culture. And the introduction says, when political leaders set a negative example, I just want to breathe there because we've had quite an experience of that in the UK recently. Professional commitments to just practice become more important. So the professional ethics, if you like, or commitment to just practice becomes even more important because the people at the top don't have any ethics. They're there for themselves. They're there to make money, get power, prestige, and secure their place, you know, after they've left office. So it's a really important point. It's hard to subvert a rule of law state without lawyers, or to hold show trials without judges. Authoritarians need obedient civil servants. So basically, this is all about making sure that we as professionals, if you consider yourself that way, or certainly if you have people that you interact with who are professionals, to kind of make sure they're held accountable for their actions, basically. And that includes doctors, of course, lawyers, civil servants of all kinds, really. The police work for us, for instance. And so, you know, the kinds of things that they're enabled to do have to be ethical. Otherwise, we end up losing democracy. You see, professional ethics must guide us, particularly, obviously, normally in everyday life, but particularly during exceptional situations. And we've come through one exceptional situation, which was the pandemic. We've moved swiftly into another one, which is the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which is a very complex situation, which mainstream media is trying to simplify and make it just evil versus good, but it's never that simple. We have to look at what the underlying issues are in the whole of Europe, really, and the world in general, why one culture feels superior to another, why these kinds of fault lines develop. But the most important thing to note is that individual people are powerful when they get together with others, and particularly in professional bodies. And that's the point of having doctors' associations, law associations, is because people in groups or combinations with each other getting together are more powerful than individuals standing alone. And so what we have to understand is that just following orders, in other words, any edict that comes down from central government, becomes a problem when it's not questioned, when it's not debated, when we understand that we have the right to query the truths that we're being given with a critical eye. And that's something, you know, I'm trained in. I'm not a medical doctor, but I trained with medical doctors, and I basically was trained very well in looking at differing opinions and coming to a conclusion. You know, that seems to have been lost recently, and we've seen people being threatened with losing their jobs, for instance, for not agreeing with the current rule of law, which was an emergency law, and some would say very disproportionately and damagingly enacted. You know, we've seen such huge ramifications from lockdowns, for instance, and from mandatory vaccination, which is just, it was unthinkable at the beginning, the pandemic, but now here we are. And I'm not saying it's not a good thing, that's up to you to decide. But the question is it what we want? Is it the way forward to have a situation where the population is so unhealthy that their immune systems are so destroyed that the only solution is one solution? Always beware, one solution. We need to boost people's health more than we need to cure anything. We need to get people aware that they have a responsibility, and they have the ability to question and to decide for themselves what they want from our society going forward. You know, do we want this kind of fear-based knee-jerk reaction society, or do we want community? Do we want to join together, and even if we differ in our opinions, to agree on common cause? You know, we all want a functioning health service. Isn't that what we all want? We all want law that applies to everybody equally. We want governments to be accountable and to follow their own policies rather than flouting them. So these are the things I think we can all agree on, whether we disagree on the detail. But anyway, I think it's a very important question here, and that professions can create a form of ethical conversation that are impossible between a lonely individual and a distant government. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. You know, all of us are lonely these days, but very many of us anyway. We feel isolated, we feel separate, and we have a government who basically are making decisions on our behalf that have very little experience of what most of us go through, because we have a privilege system in the UK, really, still not a meritocracy, as we've noted very clearly from what's happened in our government with what I like to call the old boys system, which is, you know, Eton and so on. These schools which create our politicians are very rarefied environments where you just get introduced to the right people at the right time. And so whether your government collapses or whether your ministerial role becomes, you know, intolerable and you're sacked, makes no difference to you, because you've got other sources of income almost immediately. Now, that's not the experience of the majority of people in this country, where, you know, if we lose our jobs, we are in real trouble. And so I really would love to see governments more accountable, and the kinds of people we elect to have had real life experience much more than they do. And that is possible when people speak up, and particularly when they speak up in groups. So that's my thoughts for today. I hope you're enjoying these discussions, and look forward to taking you on the journey to chapter 6 next time. Thank you. Bye for now.